Hello world, today in Genergy on the ground, I want to discuss some important topics in detail.
A common query arises numerous times and it is often repeated by many individuals seeking clarity.
In time.
The question is, why my generator?
When the weather is cold, it starts effectively, but in hotter conditions, its performance drops significantly, especially this week.
Answered one of these questions and
I wanted to give a broad answer.
so that everyone to whom that happens goes to that answer. But anyway, I make this video to explain it.
Okay?
Before going on to develop this spectacular breakdown, I want to leave you here an idea. Notice today, more than ever, we have young people and not so young, super prepared university students with spectacular careers in engineering, analysts, political science, very good culture on an academic level. But I would say that they all lack the culture of the pastor. Yes, I like it because the other day I met a boy who said that he was going to take a one-year trip and he wanted to, well, get to know someone else, other cultures, etc. All right, but sometimes you don't even have to travel much. I encourage all of you who have finished such a technical, spectacular career to do the last subject, which is the mixture with the person who is doing an assignment, who perhaps I don't have a university degree, but I know him like him. Besides, he says, I remember when I was little, there was a shepherd who I told him, asked him about what he was doing with the sheep and said that he didn't. What was the herd? Who had taught him to know them? It was their shepherd Karia, the one who made them go or not go, that is, he had a culture at the level of that flock that was surprising. Well, get off that spectacular race. Leave the suit for a moment, get into a fishing boat, mix with a farmer, watch a lathe. See to see that shepherd, that is. This last vital human subject is one I believe we must all learn. Just putting it out there as food for thought.
Well, we thoroughly worked on and developed the introduction.
Well, let's see the causes. You ask me why my generator, my motor pump, my gasoline engine. In short, a cylindrical monkey of this type starts well in cold but does not start in hot. Let's do it. Look at one of the reasons, not the only one, but I'm going to leave you here. Sit down for 1 minute. Look, I'm giving you a little piece of video so you can see what you should never do with a generator, and that is going to cause that precise problem. And this is it. There you are seeing a generator stuck inside a van. The customer buys it because he has a large deposit. It is the premium line. It is a professional generator, and thank goodness. But look at what condition it is working in, locked up. With plastic bags, you can't sweat anywhere. You can't get temperature inside the van. There is possibly a temperature of 50 degrees now there. I remind you that when we say that we recommend about 1040 oils, we are talking about that 40 refers to the temperature of the environment, the temperature where that outdoor generator is going to move. Well, that gentleman, the distributor has already advised him to use 2050 oil because the environment where he was working is the one that consumes oil. That is, no matter how much 2050 he puts in the oil, he continues to consume it and that oil burns. No, that's what I'm going to do here, okay? When that oil is already consumed, even in this type of work that we just saw many times, the one who is refilling oil because he is consuming the engine oil. For this type of work, there comes a time that even more oil is filled in the drink which generates charcoal in the explosion chamber. That is, in this space it applies to all this. In the valve shells all this, and in the piston head. This means that when this head is working cool, it starts well. But when it is hot, when it reaches 2500 dec, the explosions of the fire are happening, of the explosion of the gasoline due to the spark plug. When we stop it, these are real embers. What we have here, the charcoal, that the flow of air, gasoline that the carburetor incorporates into the equipment through the carburetor, which enters the explosion chamber. It is then practically vaporized by that brazier, so that when the dead center reaches the top, the upper dead center, and the explosion of the spark plug jumps, there is nothing left to burn. So we're not able to pull off the hot. Why? Because we have an excess of charcoal in the explosion chamber and piston head, valves, etc. Well, here I have told you the why and the cause. That is, the cause is cold, maintenance. Why did the charcoal stay here? We have already seen an oil level, but it is not the only one. The level may be ready and we consume, that is, we have coal. Here take into account. When the generator starts, we close the air one and the accelerator one is in this position. So when we pull, there is a huge, by not getting too much air, there is a huge flow of gasoline that is going to get inside. Here, that enormous flow of gasoline doesn't burn everything either. Since we are only using that lot of gasoline for an effective cold start, but if we take a long time to open the butterfly of the starter, we are putting in coal, dirt, because it is impossible not to burn everything. Okay, I'm doing well, I'm watching there. No, I'm doing well, I'll take the air out of it as soon as I start. Yes, perfect. But we're talking about the filter, because this is it. Yet another cause when this filter is clogged. When this filter is stuck, it's as if we were working with this air butterfly. Well, something like this, something closed. That somewhat closed means that our generator is consuming more gasoline. We will have already noticed it, and that it is, well, creating dirt in the blast chamber. Okay, and this is another cause, the air filter. A clogged air filter contributes to poor starts in hot conditions, as charcoal buildup hinders smooth operation. And let's go with another of the causes that occur a lot, and it is the valve settings, the setting of why you should look at the stock that is placed. Here we have these rockers. These rockers are opening this valve when it's cold, and when it's hot, they open the intake valve, which is what it's intended from. As we see, the carburetor is this, the intake valve is okay. Well, this intake valve opens, so that between the gasoline and the exhaust valve opens, so that the burned gases come out. That's why there are two valves here. The first part, that the pusher intervenes, this pusher that is linked to the shaft that pushes upwards, enters here, arrives here, and pushes the valve to open. It is one of the longest parts that the motor itself has the valve stem, the pusher, that is the rocker arm itself. There are a number of metals that expand with heat, like train tracks, and shrink with cold. That's what it exists for, to alleviate that dilation. There is a thing called take games, which is slack. That there is 0.25 and 0.15 gauge in this rocker clearance. Let's say it would be something like this. Okay, this is done with this element. It is okay with the gauges, with these thickness gauges. Okay, here we would be at 0.15. Alright, so if that slack is gone and the valve setting as it's known is absent, then we've adjusted the valve during cold conditions and the results were excellent. What's the matter? That when the metals I have just named heat, they expand and open the exhaust and intake valves. We can give him what you want now. It won't start because there is no airtight, there is no closed hermetic. I mean, there's nothing close to make the explosion effective. We are also going to notice this because it costs less to throw hot than cold. Cold is hard and hot it pulls very well. Well, that's another thing. The valve adjustment, perhaps the last, perhaps the least likely. The easiest thing to check is when the ignition intervenes in this cause. This is the ignition. Classic, which is made up of a coil. This branch cable, which is the one that goes to the switch. And that we have it, this goes to this position here, okay? Here it is. There is the ignition coil. This goes to the spark plug, which is the one that will make the spark jump for ignition. If this ignition due to X causes is not releasing the hot spark. But yes, in cold, because we can have a switch element that when it heats up, it drifts to ground and stops the equipment. It's like stopping it, or it may be a conductor of a conductor that is conducting electricity, which with expansion, the envelope expands and stops. Inside, and we don't see it, that is a cause for the ignition to fail. I say that it is easy to check because it is enough to see if the spark plug has a spark or not when it is hot. If so, I have already found out the cause. I will start by changing the spark plug, lest the spark plug is the culprit. Alright? Well, these are the fundamental causes of all this that can happen. And inside the carburetor, we cannot forget one, and it is in those engines that do not start hot when they are accelerated, but do start when they are idle. An engine that starts idle but accelerates and stops has a carburation problem. That is the fountain. The gum, that is this one here, the gum of Relenti, is clean and works and goes perfectly. If I put a load on it and it stops, it's because this throttle butterfly just moved to this position. Here we see the idle fountains, which are these here. It's okay that they are the ones that are putting in the gasoline. When this butterfly is semi or almost closed, the main fountain in the tank below is not intervening in the idle. This gum is exceptionally clean over here, identified as the lower one, allowing air to flow in through this small hole, thereby generating a dirty venturi effect. However, upon acceleration, the gum ceases to operate as anticipated, transitioning into the dominant assortment. If this particular piece becomes stuck, the engine won't ignite. Of course, achieving ignition relies on having an initial position coupled with some heated acceleration for proper commencement. We're attempting to pull away, but ignition fails due to the blocked high fountain. Additionally, the cold start mechanism only triggers operation when the generator becomes active. Furthermore, the persistently idle behavior of the underlying machine in Relenti serves as another contributing factor to the issue. Well, more information here in Genergy.es is our website, which you already know is an intuitive website show, easy to navigate, which is made and designed to teach, to give you information before making a purchase decision. That is very important, not to make a mistake. And if you think you are going to make a mistake, very easy. You can reach out to us through our emails, phone numbers, mine and those of my colleagues, always available to assist you in making informed decisions. Moreover, never forget that continuous learning is not just encouraged, it's indispensable for growth.